Hi there, my name is Ed and I'm a teacher at the WSET School London, and in this video we're going to be covering German wines and wine labelling terms whilst focusing on the regions of the Mosel Valley, the Rheingau and the Rheinhessen. So Germany has a very cool climate, however it also is able to benefit from quite a long growing season, which allows producers to leave the grapes on the vine for a longer period of time, achieving ripeness in the grapes while still preserving higher levels of acidity and freshness. To achieve this, we are going to be looking at mountains. Mountains kind of shelter a lot of our German wine growing areas, and this is able to give us those dry, sunny autumn months, allowing us to have those extended ripening periods, but also in some cases giving us the ideal conditions for botrytis affected wines. Rivers are a key feature of many of our German wine growing regions. These help moderate the climate, extending warmth into the autumn to allow us to ripen our fruit more successfully. But they're also going to, in some cases, provide us the damp, misty mornings needed for botrytis rot to start affecting our fruit and be able to produce some naturally sweet wines of very high quality. These rivers are also going to carve valleys through the mountains, and we're going to see steep south-facing aspects in some of our best vineyards. Again, maximising sunlight and warmth is really important here to help us ripen our fruit in what is otherwise a very cool climate. And these slopes often will have very stony soils which are able to absorb and reflect heat up to the vines to give us, again, that little extra boost to ripeness in our fruit. So our key varieties in Germany. Riesling is our most widely planted variety and produces some of our most prestigious wines. It is a late budding variety, which is really important in this cool climate as it helps mitigate some of the risk of frost, which is one of our key vineyard challenges. It is able to produce wines of a huge range of styles depending on how we harvest our fruit and what level of ripeness we can achieve, with some wines being quite light-bodied with citrus and floral fruit characteristics, and riper examples having lots of stone fruits and maybe even tropical fruit flavours and a much fuller body. It is also able to take on characteristics from botrytis, giving us dried fruit with lots of honey-like characteristics, producing some fabulous naturally sweet wines. Spätburgunder is our most widely planted black grape variety. This is Pinot Noir, and it is able to produce a range of styles. It favours the warmer areas of Germany where it's able to ripen and give us either lighter, fruitier examples or more concentrated styles that can get the benefit of oak maturation. Müller-Thurgau, this is a crossing of two different grape varieties, Riesling and Madeleine Royale. It has similar flavour characteristics to Riesling with some fruity and floral characteristics, but it doesn't have the same level of flavour intensity as most of our premium Riesling examples has, and it doesn't quite have the same level of acidity. So it's typically and historically made into medium dry or medium sweet wines with quite a light body and some fruity characteristics. Grauburgunder and Weißburgunder are Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc. These are typically made into a dry style of wine without any particular influence of oak maturation. Silvaner is another German grape variety. It is less fruity and floral to Riesling, but still has high levels of acidity. It can be made into dry or sweeter styles, and many examples of high quality have a distinctive earthy characteristic. So, German wine labelling terms. Qualitätswein is our PDO category for Germany, which means it has to come from one of 13 wine growing areas. Within this classification, there is another set of criteria that is allowing us to label our wines as a Prädikatswein. These are needing to have more sugar in our grapes at time of harvest than a standard Qualitätswein. And there are 6 different categories within Prädikats, which are arranged in order of ascending sugar content at time of harvest. This is described as the must weight. So the more sugar you have in your grapes, the higher the must weight will be. Our first 3 Prädikats, Kabinett, Spätlese and Auslese, these are wines that can be fermented all the way to dry. However, will often have some degree of sweetness from having their fermentation stopped and the yeast filtered away before bottling. Our Beer and Ausleses, Eiswein and Trockenbeer and Ausleses are naturally sweet wines that are created from grapes that have extremely high concentration of sugar. Eiswein is produced from harvesting frozen grapes, whereas our Beer- und Auslese and Trockenbeer- und Auslese are created with the influence of botrytis to concentrate the grape sugars. Many different grape varieties can be made into Predicates wines. However, most commonly found are our Rieslings, and are forming our most prestigious of these categories. A typical Mosel Riesling that is labelled as a cabinet will typically be light in body with less ripe aromas of floral and citrus fruit flavours. Spätlesers and Auslesers will have fuller bodies than cabinets, riper fruit aromas, with Spätleser potentially having stone fruit characteristics, Auslesers potentially having some tropical fruit characteristics as well as those stone fruit aromas. Our sweeter examples are ice wines from frozen fruit will give us very pure and intense varietal characteristics of the grape variety, whereas our Beer- und Auslesers and Trockenbeer- und Auslesers, as influenced with botrytis, will have a dried fruit characteristic and a distinctive honey-like characteristic. Recently, in 2021, Germany updated its wine laws to include a hierarchy within our wine growing areas. We have 13 wine growing areas around Germany. Within these, there are now smaller sub-regions that you can find on the wine label, and smaller areas within those regions can be labelled as villages. Single vineyards have also been recognised within each of the villages within our wine growing areas as well. Within our single vineyard expressions, there are a couple of other associated labelling terms, Erste Gewächs and Große Gewächs. These are wines that must be fermented to dry and are held to very strict quality control legislations. So some of our German wine growing areas. The Mosel Valley and its tributaries, the Saar and the Ruhr, is one of Germany's coolest wine growing regions. Riesling dominates here and is able to produce wines of a lighter bodied style with aromas of citrus, green fruits and floral notes. Around the villages of Piersport, Velen and Bernkastel, known as the Middle Mosel, is some of the finest vineyards in the area, with steep south-facing slopes and slaty soils, which is able to maximise ripeness of our fruits and give us some more concentrated aromas. The wines here will typically be fermented with some sugar remaining in the wines to help balance the naturally high acidity that is found in this cool region. The Rheingau is a small but prestigious region with best vineyards on the north bank of the River Rhine, which give us a nice south-facing aspect, which is able to help us get more concentrated and riper fruit expressions. This, combined with the protection of the Taunus Hills to the north, mean that the Rheingau is able to produce slightly riper wines than we can find in other areas. Riesling dominates production here, and some of the highest quality examples can be found around the villages of Johannesburg and Rudesheim. These will be fermented typically into a dry style with a full body, with aromas of stone fruits, citrus, and floral notes. The Rheinhessen is the largest viticultural area in Germany, with a wide range of different grape varieties being planted. Riesling still dominates, but there's large amounts of plantings of Müller-Thurgau and black grape varieties, which occupy about 30% of all plantings. Some of the most highly regarded vineyards can be found near the town of Nierstein, where we have steep east-facing slopes on the bank of the River Rhine, which is able to produce a very full-bodied and aromatically intense style of Riesling. Throughout the region, there is a lot of Müller-Thurgau, which is often made into a medium dry or medium sweet style, which is quite simple in characteristics with some fruity and floral notes. So our question on this session, identify and describe 2 natural factors that can boost ripeness of Riesling in the Mosel Valley. And this is worth 6 marks. For this question, you're going to get 1 mark for identifying a natural factor and 2 marks for describing it, and you need to do this twice. So for a model answer, we could talk about steep south-facing slopes. Steep south-facing slopes are going to maximise the amount of sunlight and warmth that the vineyard receives, aiding ripeness of the fruit. You could talk about stony soils as well. Stony soils are going to absorb the heat of the day and then in the evening radiate out that heat, extending the warmth of the day and aiding ripeness of the fruit. Other potential answers could also be acceptable. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you found this useful.